One thing we'd like to talk about also is guide dog etiquette. The dog is an extension of the handler. So when someone's out there seeing a guide dog working, you're like, oh, that's a cute dog, and oh, aren't you a cute dog? And they start engaging with the dog. You're actually taken away from the handler's safety.
Hi, my name is Maxine, and I would like to know if I can approach the dog.
If somebody comes up on the sidewalk and waves a hand at my dog, speaks to my dog, pets my dog, even makes eye contact with my dog, that can break that communication that we have going. And for a split second, if my dog's attention is distracted, he may miss a curb, right? He may step out in front of something dangerous. He may walk me into a pole. They are highly trained, but they are still animals and they're distractible.
How you doing?
Oh, hey.
Look at your dog. It's beautiful. How old is he?
He's 6 now. Yeah, I'm just kind of in the middle of something, so.
That's a nice dog. Is he purebred? How much did he cost?
If you distract that dog, you pet that dog, the repercussion may not be on you, but it might be on the handler. That could be the difference between being hit by a car and not being hit by a car.
I have no patience for people who reach out and pet without permission. I have had people get very upset when I have told them not to pet the dog and they do it anyway.
Say hi, puppy. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Good boy.
Can anyone else give commands to a guide dog?
In public, nobody can give this dog commands other than me. The dog may see that as a distraction, and it may cause problems between you and that dog. Last thing we want is road pizza.
I do know some people who have come home with a dog and then come down with a really nasty virus or have gotten injured. And so people in their household had to keep the dog engaged and do the walks and the feeding.
Simply
No,
put,
you
trading is a
cannot
no,
trade
no,
guide
no.
dog.
You're trained with a dog specifically for a reason. And even if they are similar height, similar pace, you don't know how to work with someone else's dog. So unlike a car, you can trade cars, they're pretty universal. Dogs are definitely not something you can trade. If my dog was sick or injured or really just in a position where he can't work, I have to technically go back to using a cane.
Can I give your dog a treat?
We really don't want people trying to feed the dog, and it's no different than someone trying to give sweeties to someone's child.
Sometimes random strangers want to give my dog a treat when we're out working. It's a nice gesture. It's meant as a kindness. The best rule of thumb is don't bother the dog or bother the person while they're working. And that includes asking if the dog can have treats.
Just the other day, I had a guy trying to give my guy here a cheeseburger. Like, it's something you just don't do. Like, these dogs are working, and if you're handing them food, it's going to distract it. It's going to cause problems.
Jenny has several food allergies, so I have to be very careful about what she can and cannot eat.
Can a business refuse entry with a guide dog?
Guide dog handlers have the right to access any place that the public would have access to. My name is Larissa Proctor. I work with CNIB as the manager of Guide Dog Advocacy, and my role is to help people to understand and exercise their rights when it comes to guide dogs. We also do a lot of public education to make businesses and the public more aware of the rights of guide dog teams.
I've been very, very fortunate being a guide dog user here in Edmonton. I've been welcomed into restaurants and hotels and taxis and Ubers, and generally have had a good experience. I have noticed a change in the last, I would say about a year and a half.
In Alberta, we have the Blind Persons Rights Act, which makes it an offense to deny access to somebody who's blind and working with a guide dog. So a person who's denied access to a restaurant, for example, could phone the police non-emergency line and report that they've been denied access. The service provider that's denying them access could be charged under the Blind Persons Rights Act, and upon summary conviction, they can be fined up to $3,000.
The laws that exist to protect service dogs and guide dogs is essentially a civil law. So this means the police technically can intervene, but they most likely won't because there's no criminal act that has occurred. Alberta has two pieces of legislation that are designed to protect the rights, but they're really not.
The Service Dogs Act, which was brought into place to supposedly protect our rights to access, is not enforced, at least by Edmonton police. In theory, we have the right to go everywhere with our service dog. In practice, to be honest, there's really nothing anyone can do if we're denied access. I feel like such a downer, but man, it sucks.
Often police don't understand the legislation that exists. So if you're phoning the police to assert your rights under the Blind Persons Rights Act, you may have to do some pretty strong advocacy. You might need to understand the legislation and explain it to the police and provide them with some resources so that they understand what this piece of legislation is and how they can exercise it. Rideshare companies are a hot topic these days with guide dog handlers.
My first access issue was a brutally cold day in January, and the driver basically said that he was not going to take me, and he just rolled up his window and he drove away. That particular driver drove for Uber.
All right, Uber's on the way. Hey, Uber?
Yeah, but I didn't know about the dog, so I'm sorry.
You have to take the dog with you, man. It's not a...
No, I'm not taking the dog, sorry.
In the Uber app, there is a section where they can report a service animal issue. So what that will do is trigger an investigation at Uber. In many jurisdictions, they are licensed by the city, can contact by law enforcement.
There is a specific bylaw for the city of Edmonton called the Vehicle for Hire bylaw. You contact the city and file a complaint, and then it gets sent to a bylaw officer. Depending on what happened and what the issues were regarding the refusal will determine sort of what happens next and what, if anything, the driver is charged with.
I did get denied access with a taxi cab where the person basically wanted my dog to sit in the back of the cab, like in the trunk, because he didn't want his leather seats to get ruined. And I said, no, the dog sits at my feet. And so basically he just drove off, and they had to send another cab. Subsequently to that, I did file a complaint with the bylaw office, and the driver was suspended.
Another option is the Alberta Human Rights Act. So under that act, if somebody has experienced discrimination, they are welcome to file a complaint with the Alberta Human Rights Commission, and the business can then receive penalties based on the outcome of that process. Discrimination also comes in the form of offering someone a different level of treatment than you would offer any other customer. So that might look like a person coming to a restaurant and being told, you know what, we're going to seat you on the patio because you have your dog.
Usually I can talk my way out of the access denial, because basically with knowing what my rights are, I can explain it to the business owner. I explain how there's a fine that they can be issued, and under the different legislations for Alberta. I usually have to have a conversation every couple months.
There's also the option of talking to the media so that the people who read that story understand the barriers that guide dog handlers still face and can become allies because they're now informed about the problem. And if people have questions about their rights and how to exercise their rights, they want to know what the legislation is, they need support, they can always reach out to CNIB as well. At CNIB Guide Dogs, we issue an identification card. And the purpose of the card is to show that the team is a qualified guide dog team. It is not proper etiquette to ask somebody for proof that their guide dog is a working guide dog. What we typically tell people is that if the dog is wearing a harness and it looks like it's performing a task, that's enough evidence that this is a trained and working guide dog. We don't want people working with guide dogs to be in a position where they're essentially having to prove their disability every time they enter a public place.
Therefore, there's no requirement to show your ID to anyone. If you are faced with a situation where there's a potential for denial of access or refusal of access or service, the ID card helps to smoothen the way sometimes because people respect a government-issued ID.
What happens if somebody's afraid of your dog or allergic to your dog? I have had people like on the bus say they're afraid of dogs or they have allergies, and I tell them, well, I have the right to be there. If they're uncomfortable, they have the right to move.
If a service provider has an allergy to dogs, they have rights as well. So their rights are protected under the Human Rights Code, just as the rights of a guide dog handler would be. What needs to happen in that case is that an appropriate accommodation is found so that both people's rights can be protected. So we might see this in the case of a taxi driver who's allergic to dogs. In that case, the proper procedure would be for the taxi driver to identify that, I see you're traveling with a guide dog. I'm allergic to dogs. I've dispatched another taxi to come and get you, and I'll wait with you here until that taxi comes. So they're not denying service. They're just acknowledging that in this situation, we both have human rights that need to be protected, and we can find another accommodation. In the case of people who are afraid of dogs, fear is not a human right.
What is the hardest part about owning a guide dog?
I've been asked not to bring the dog in. I usually will get asked at one of the farmers markets for his ID, or even the mall near my place. I've been approached numerous times, and it gets frustrating when it's over and over and over again.
I've heard about access refusals here. I know they happen, but when they happen to you, I don't know really how to describe that feeling. Demoralizing and very frustrating.
When people bring their untrained pets into places that they're not allowed, that really, really bothers me. I've ran into a couple big dogs and, it's obvious they're not friendly. They're barking and growling at Bailey and lunging at her, and I'm having to put myself in between her and the other dog just to ensure that they don't get at her. I understand, you want your dog with you, they're your best friend, but if your dog's not a service dog, leave them at home.
I think the stress with getting around is just the attitudes of people in the general public. I'm a very independent person, but someone on the street may, try and tell me, I can cross the street when I really don't want to cross the street. People mean well most of the time, but it's just those assumptions that, someone with vision loss can't do stuff on their own.
Oh, hey, you're trying to cross? Here, let me give you a hand. Okay. I can take you across. Sorry. No, it's okay. I don't mind. I'm going that way anyway.
I mind.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to help.
I'm wondering, what are the responsibilities of a guide dog handler?
So guide dog handlers are responsible for ensuring that their dog is well behaved in public places, typically that their dog is, on leash and under control, and responsible for cleaning up after their dogs as well.
I can be asked to leave a public place if my dog is misbehaving, and honestly, I wouldn't insist that me and my dog stay somewhere if my dog is misbehaving or if something was wrong with my dog, because if there's something wrong, then I don't want to force that dog into that stressful situation in the first place.
The responsibilities of a good service dog handler are to make sure that you advocate for your dog and for yourself. Knowing your rights is really important as well. To be a good service dog handler is, knowing where your dog can and cannot go, and knowing what your options are if they say, I don't want your dog in here anyway, even though you're allowed to be here.
If you see someone who's got a dog, whether it's a guide dog or any other service dog, just don't pay any attention to it. Like, pretend that animal isn't even there. Because at the end of the day, it's really no different than someone coming in with a wheelchair. It sounds horrible, but the dog is really nothing more than a mobility aid. The dog is there to assist us, even though they may be incredibly cute. It's there for a purpose.
They're busy people and you're a stranger. So it's not polite. In fact, it's quite rude to stop that blind person just because you want to pet their dog or you want to talk about their dog or you want to do something like that. So my advice is just leave a guide dog team alone.
My advice to anyone that's watching would be that I'm still a person. I'm a person first, and you know, my guide dog is there. He's cute. You want to pet him, but the best thing to do is ignore them, because when the harness is on, they are focused, they are working, and any distractions could impact my safety and my dog's safety.